From the previous video, we learned about why there's been so much conflict surrounding the Jews. We know that Jews from all parts of the world began settling in Palestine, the birthplace of Judaism, but the Palestinian Arabs are unhappy with the Jews settling in their homeland. The British, who helped the Zionists with their cause of forming a new Jewish homeland, instead planned to take over the Middle East for themselves. The nation of Israel was built upon these conflicts. In this video, we'll find out how Israel was created. Without further ado, let's resume our tale. Riots became increasingly common as time went on. In 1921, Britain temporarily stopped Jews from immigrating to Palestine. The Arabs asked the British if they could make Palestine a free and independent country, something they had been longing for years. But the British rejected this request, and the Arabs were understandably very mad. How would you feel if you were an Arab at the time? Needless to say, the British government were in a tough spot. They couldn't satisfy the Arabs by giving them independence, or the Jews by allowing any immigration. The population of Jews had more than doubled from 1919 to 1929, from 60,000 to 160,000 Jews. When the British tried to curb immigration and stop Jews from buying land, Jews all over the world got angry too. By 1937, relations between Arabs and Jews in Palestine were tense. Arabs had tried striking and rebelling more against both the British and Jews, but to no avail. A report by the British government found that Palestine should be split into two states, one for the Jews and one for the Palestinian Arabs. While the Jews were in favor of the plan, the Arabs rejected it. What are your opinions on the whole conflict? The Palestinian Arabs used to be under the rule of the Ottoman Empire until the end of World War I, when the British took over much of the Middle East. Do these Arabs deserve independence? On the other hand, the Jews are finally starting to free themselves from all the persecution in Europe as more and more flee to Israel. Is what the Jews are doing right? Then, World War II happened. 6 million innocent Jews were killed in the Nazi Holocaust, one of the largest acts of mass murder ever committed to date. How would you feel as a Jew? You'd probably feel an even greater need of a true home country where you can be safe with your own people. In 1947, Britain handed Palestine over to the United Nations as they could no longer afford to control them, especially after the heavy damage Britain sustained in World War II. The UN wanted to split Palestine into two separate states, one for the Muslims and one for the Jews. This led to a civil war as the Palestinian Arabs did not agree with this decision. But the Arabs were defeated by the Jews, who tried to kill as many Arabs in the process. One can argue the Jews were acting in defense, but were the Arabs in the wrong for not accepting the UN decision to divide Palestine? Finally, in 1948, the State of Israel was created and recognized by the United Nations, but neighboring countries, Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, and Transjordan, weren't happy, resulting in a war in which the new Israeli state emerged victorious. Arab nations generally believed that Israel had created a refugee problem in the area because of all the fighting since 1947, and neither side wanted to compromise. The Arabs saw Israel as a huge unwanted Western outpost, while the Israelis just wanted their own nation and saw the Arabs as a violent hindrance to all this. This basically sums up our episode on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Following this, there have been several large wars in the Middle East. Many Muslim countries do not recognize Israel to this day, and it is easy to see why. Firstly, Arabs view Israelis as outsiders who have no rightful claim to Palestine, despite it being their ancestral home over 1,000 years ago. Secondly, we must not forget the plight of the Jews, how many of them have been killed, and how they've never had a true home or sense of belonging. It's quite easy to see why they wanted this Jewish homeland so badly. This is a complex issue, and we hope that before you make a final judgment on it, that you do your due diligence and research this topic. This debate has actually been very controversial, and we have tried our best to remain factually accurate, neutral, and not oversimplify this complex topic too much. None of us believe in Judaism or Islam, though we have great respect for both religions, and we're just trying our best to clarify the history of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Thank you, and we hope you enjoyed our video.